You are watching The Rap Report, How to Get Away with Murder, Episode 6, Freakin' Whack-A-Mole. What a title, Freakin' Whack-A-Mole. I am your host, Sophia Stanley, joined by...
Bam Erickson.
And we are going to jump right into this episode because I actually really enjoyed it. I think that for me, this was a pivotal episode, and I am now totally committed to this show and to this series. I think it was just an excellent episode. How about you, Bam? What were your overall thoughts on the episode?
I like the episode. I like the continuing character development between the Elise Five.
Yes, the Keating Five, yeah.
Right. So now we see Asher now stories being put to the forefront. Wes is an ongoing thing. We've had Michaela, and we are getting tidbits of Laurel, and then we already kind of know what Connor's deal is. So I thought this was perfect that he fit into the weekly Who Did It, you know?
Yeah, and you said that last week that basically with each week and with each weekly case we get to know something more about the Keating Five. So your earlier prediction was spot on. So let's jump right into it. The episode opens with Wes in Annalise's house upstairs, realizing that the wallpaper is the same from the picture of the penis on the phone, yeah. And he confronts Annalise and says, "Sam, your husband is Mr. Darcy." Mm-hmm. And her reaction was, for me, surprising given her character, but not surprising overall. The fact that she kind of covered herself up and kind of was like, what are you doing here? She seemed vulnerable in a way that we haven't really seen her. And the way that she kind of gets psychotic yet out of control and saying, don't leave this house, was a little bit emotional as well as irrational. What were your thoughts about that, Bam?
I thought that as well, but what's also interesting is you get to see two different sides. Sometimes the person who has everything is like a celebrity. They have all the fame, the money, attention, and then when they're not in front of the camera, sometimes they're depressed or they're going through something that people don't tend to recognize. And I think that with Annalise, she's a strong lawyer who's so brave and she's so strong and she doesn't take mess from anyone, but really her personal life is completely opposite, which is kind of causing her to go, I don't want to say crazy, but she has some issues.
Okay. And
her personal issues, she knows how to separate the personal issues from her work issues, but she's having issues. She has problems.
I completely agree, and this is kind of a little sidebar. I actually personally thought that when she came out of her bedroom, she looked absolutely fabulous, and I think that there's almost a juxtaposition going on. There's almost three personalities, just like you said. There's Annalise, the corporate or the criminal attorney, who is just fierce and sophisticated and fabulous and very glamorous, right? That's kind of the one scenario we see. Then, a couple episodes back when she was smearing off her makeup, we had this person, this almost infantile being that was all bare and raw, right? And then we see kind of another person, almost like a third personality, where her hair was natural, it was gorgeous. She was kind of had that I'm coming out of my bedroom glow going on, despite the fact that Sam was downstairs. So I thought that it kind of is symbolic of the different aspects of who she is, public, private, and then maybe somewhere in between. And not only somewhere in between, but I'm going to jump forward to this weekly case. For me, was the first time that I not only understood why Annalise became an attorney, but felt for her and didn't look at her like someone who I could not be sympathetic to. It was the first time that I really felt like, yay, Annalise, I want to be one of the Keating Five. She's absolutely awesome. She's absolutely amazing. And for me, the person who stepped out of the bedroom, that was that person. That was that beginning law student who was effervescently beautiful without having to be overly made up.
A side note, when you talked about how she's this lawyer, she's very well together, there was an observation that I noticed. When she went to visit Wes, when she went to his bedroom, you notice how she was, you notice how she had the big handbag?
Yes.
Well, Kerry Washington carries a huge handbag, and so do you. And so I thought to myself, what is it with these lawyers who love carrying these big handbags, and you guys all hold them on your arm, and you have this kind of like the swagger about you, where you put it like right, right on your forearm, and it's so huge, and you have this little walk that is that. What's up with that?
Oh my God, I'm going to try to stop laughing. I'm going to have to post a link with this video that I read an article maybe 2 months ago. It was either the New York Times or maybe Glamour, and it actually broke down personalities based on the type of handbag you wear and how you hold it. And I can't recall what that means if you carry a large handbag and you kind of have it almost on your elbow crease. Is that kind of what you mean,
Yes.
Ben? How I hold it? Oh
Yeah.
my God. I literally am kind of at a loss for words, but like I said, I will definitely post a link to that article, and it actually breaks down what Bam is talking about perfectly. Oh my goodness. Well, were you surprised? Let's jump back to Wes in the apartment.
Okay.
You had previously said something about you were a little bit uneasy or unsure of Wes and Annalise's relationship, and
Yeah.
the fact that there is something subtly sexual about how Annalise approaches Wes. Did you kind of feel that undertow in this scene when she went to his apartment?
I didn't feel it this time because I noticed that even when okay, so Wes opened the door shirtless, like he just got out the shower, he was wet. When Annalise was looking at him, there was never a look of her staring at his body or his muscles, even when he was looking away. So this time, I don't feel the sexual tension. She was coming in more almost like a parent this time to her child, saying, you haven't called me, get up, get dressed, you're going to school now.
Okay,
That's
I can see that. I
yeah.
can see that. How did you feel though when she kind of touched the scratches on the wall and basically implied or asked whether or not those scratches were basically from him and Rebecca having sex?
Because it was kind of in a snide, sarcastic way, because she's really unsure what the hell is going on with Wes and Rebecca. She doesn't know why he's so passionate about saving her. And so it was just I think it was just a random thing like, oh, I see scratches on the wall. I don't know if she really expected to get an answer or not.
Okay, that's a really good question, and it's funny. I just want to give a quick shout out. Kid Skipper on YouTube asked the same question. Kid Skipper was unsure or was wondering why does Wes care so much about Rebecca, in essence, a virtual stranger. And I think that I'm wondering that as well. However, for me, there was something about Annalise bringing up Rebecca and Wes, especially in relationship to the room, right? So she kind of touches the scratches on the wall, implies that something's going on between Wes and Rebecca. However, in episode 1, we find out that a law student had
Yeah.
Wes's room previously and committed suicide. I don't know how large this university is, but
Yeah.
I would presume that Annalise would be aware that a law student had the room previously, number one. Number two, and the reason she would be aware of that is because this student then went on to commit suicide. There's something there for me. Again, we've talked about this with Shondaland shows, and we know that, this is a slightly different show because it wasn't created by her. However, they always show you something, especially more than once, because it is telling. And so therefore, I feel like there's some kind of backstory there that Annalise is already aware of, and it's almost like she's playing with us, i.e. the audience. Almost, and I'm going to kind of jump around, almost what Frank does if you watch House of Cards. Frank sometimes talks directly to us, the audience, and I think that in a weird way, Annalise does the same thing where she's kind of playing with us. She's toying with us. She's kind of saying, oh, I know what these are. But she's talking to Wes, and Wes is kind of like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But Annalise is fully aware and is trying to gauge the situation and kind of playing on people's emotions and kind of the fact that she knows everything. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense, which we can now. I just want to bring up the whole thing with Asher. Annalise knew that Asher's dad was the presiding judge, which is why she slammed the door. So now again, it makes me wonder, as I said in the recap last week when we were recapping episodes 1 through 5, did she pick these 5 for personal reasons that has to do with something of their past, or did she pick them, or to add on to that, did she not only pick these people, but did she also, were they picked and then the murder happened and now she wants her Fab Five to cover up for them? And then it's ironic that Asher was not a part of this whole murder thing, so you do have to wonder how and why were they picked.
I think that is an excellent assessment, Bam. I completely think that they were picked 100% on purpose. The only thing is that, and I think we've come to realize the way that this episode ended, that we are now in present time. So at least, I think, 6 to 7 weeks of lawsuits have kind of gone on before the murder actually takes place. So they were picked before the murder. However, I agree with you 100% that they were picked for some reason. But definitely, you guys out there, let us know. Let us know on Google+, on Twitter, on YouTube. What do you think? Do you think that the Keating Five was picked on purpose? And we already know with Asher, presumably, why he was picked. So if you think they were picked on purpose, please answer that and let us know just your predictions on why you think the other 4 were also picked. I thought it was a powerful scene, just kind of, again, jumping forward, realizing that he potentially had to confront his father, because otherwise he would not have been picked for any other reason than for him to be able to go and get that type of insider information from his dad. And the way that Annalise was a little cold and said, what did she say? She basically said something, a quote about, it's not the first time you're going to be disappointed by your father.
Yeah.
I thought that was telling. I feel like every time she says snide little comments, it is telling of potentially her backstory.
Agree.
Yeah, and then it also too, it made me think, and we're gonna jump around today because we're just gonna have kind of an organic conversation. It also made me think about when she said to Michaela, she goes, "Miss Pratt, choose your husband wisely. If it doesn't work, you only have yourself to blame." So I feel like it's kind of almost maybe projecting onto Annalise that now we know that obviously Annalise has problems with her husband, number one, and presumably maybe in the future we'll find out that she had problems with her dad, and maybe that's why, kind of like you said last episode or last show, that you weren't surprised by her vulnerability. You weren't surprised that potentially she was a broken individual. And as often people, let's say, who were not loved by their fathers are.
And also she told Wes, whatever it takes, isn't that what you said?
Yes.
She's quoting to him, you told me to do whatever it takes. So she reminded him, basically, watch what you say. And
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think it also is telling, and I think this is kind of good to jump to the heart of the death row case. I think it really is kind of a question of, does the ends justify the means? So for instance, and let me kind of get this quote. So Annalise is basically at the top of the show. She is, about to have class with her law students, and she kind of is a little bit distracted, which is very unlike her. And she opens up by saying habeas corpus, right? And she says habeas corpus, in essence, is produce the body, right? And I had previously said that I feel like each weekly case, there is going to be a lesson to be learned. And on YouTube, Miss Suzuki says, quote, Annalise is teaching her students to try her case when she is implicated for murder. Again, on YouTube, Miss Suzuki says, quote, Annalise is teaching her students to try her case when she is implicated for murder. I thought that was extremely telling, and basically Annalise opens up when they, Liz comes in, says that they have another case. She tells the Keating Five to stay, and she is explaining to them that when she was a law student 21, 22 years ago, it was basically why she became the lawyer that she now is. And she says, quote, "The justice system doesn't always reward those who tell the truth, but those who have the power to create their own." I mean, I thought that was a powerful statement and told us so much about how she views the justice system and why she basically is no holds barred and really believes in the fact that the ends justifies the means and that power in essence is justice.
And what's odd, what's interesting is a lot of lawyers that I know have always had that defining moment that said, "I'm going to be a lawyer." So I thought it was great that her reason for wanting to be a lawyer was this particular situation. Now, my question is, she filed a petition in order to bring this case back to life. My question is, did she recently file the petition, or did she file it a long time ago, and it just takes a long process for it to come to life? Because I just thought it was interesting that boom, now all of a sudden that the petition has been granted.
Yeah, and funny thing is, I actually don't know the answer to that question, and I think that if you guys kind of have a viewpoint on that, definitely let us know. My gut says that she filed it a long time ago, just given the fact that in 3 weeks he would be put to death, so it's kind of like time is running out, and if I recall, there are certain time periods that you have to file certain types of appeals, and you only have a certain number, so I presume that this was their last appeal before he was actually put to death. But I do think it's telling in terms of the timing of it. And for me, it was one of the, again, I think for me, it was the first time that I was sympathetic to Annalise. Like, I connected with her. Just the entire way in which she was speaking to her client. I thought it was very different than how she had kind of interacted with people before. It seemed as if they were talking like they were equals. It was the first time she didn't seem to be speaking to him from a place of authority, i.e., I'm the attorney and I'm going to tell you what to do. It was the first time I felt like she was actually talking to a friend and that she truly cared about him and not necessarily about simply winning the case.
And not only that, but you don't wake up one day and become the kind of lawyer that she is. So if you go back to 21 years ago, she wasn't the same Annalise. So you can tell there was a bunch of built-up feelings and emotions that she had going back 21 years ago. So maybe when she first became a lawyer, maybe she lost all of her cases, or maybe she tried to do something with this case and so she lost. And so this was like her passion, her pet project. So I can see why she feels a certain way and why she was in dismay.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that it also too it reinvigorated the Keating Five in terms of, you know, when Malika says, you know, if I didn't want to be her before, I definitely want to be her now. I mean, I think that it really invigorated all of them to what it means to be a criminal attorney and what it means to be a defender for those who sometimes cannot defend themselves. And I think the fact that, you know, Asher went against his father and really, in essence, stood on the side of right, I think was really powerful, and it was amazing. And then I think also, too, the manner in which you saw what she was willing to do in court, you could hear the justices telling her to stop, and she would not stop. She was going to, like she said, beat the truth out of the senator no matter what it took. And even though, go ahead, Bam.
And she beat it.
Right, and I think that it was telling that she didn't need him to confess. All she needed was to tell the court the fact that she saw them, number one, and I think that there was a certain aspect of the passion in which she did it, which it was undeniable that you had to at least question whether or not it was possible. And basically, in essence, that's what the justices said, is that not only was what she's saying circumstantial, but that the evidence used in the case was also circumstantial, so they had no choice but to vacate the judgment, and therefore David Allen went free. And I will totally admit, I am a dork, I'm a crybaby. I cried. Like, I felt something for this man who had been in prison for all these years, simply for money and for greed and for some type of a property development, I thought it really, again, like I said, it basically made me be like, yay, Annalise, you're awesome, even though I think I'm going to regret saying that.
My heart, literally, I watched the episode twice, and when the verdict was revealed that he's a free man, my heart literally just felt a certain kind of way that it only feels sometimes, because I can't imagine anyone who's had to be stuck in prison for a period amount for an amount of time when they've done nothing. That has to be one of the worst feelings in the world. And when you see the happiness on both Annalise and David's face, it just made my heart just kind of just feel a certain way about it. But what I also thought was interesting about this episode is it touched on racism and classism.
Well said.
And go to Asher and his father. When he confronted his father, he wouldn't admit what he did, yet he felt offended that my son, you have the audacity to come to me and confront me on my BS. People who are of a certain status and wealth sometimes come off as if they are entitled to things, and you don't question me. I deal with this stuff all the time in the whole ballet industry, where I'm dealing with people who are rich and they hold positions, and they feel entitled. And I thought it was very interesting how Judge what is it,
Millstone.
How he literally felt offended for being confronted about his lies. I thought that was so interesting. And then when you go to Senator Truco, it was the same way. He felt entitled, like, what are you talking about? Like, I could be doing other stuff. I gave my time and my effort to come over here and talk to you, and now you're going to talk to me this way? The whole entitlement thing was really interesting to see how it's the same but different with these two characters.
I think that assessment is spot on, and I think it also is symbolic of even the Keating Five. I think it kind of shows you that, to a certain extent, no matter where you start off in life, if given an opportunity to kind of choose the side of right, do you? So, for instance, Asher could have chosen the easy route, right? Because his dad didn't even know the name of the teacher that he's working with. That doesn't make sense, right? Your father is an accomplished federal judge. You are working with presumably one of the best criminal attorneys, let alone obviously one of the best law professors, at least in the region, and you don't even know her name. It seems somewhat dismissive, right?
No, he knew the name. He was playing dumb.
Okay, good point.
He's playing dumb. He knew. But also, although he did take the right path, but
I know where you're going, but he demanded something for it. He basically was like, okay, I'm going to sit down with you, and basically like, A, you can't implicate my dad, which basically I think is a sign of loyalty, regardless of what his dad did. That's still his dad, number one. Number two, I also thought, or number one, A, could his dad cut him off? Like, who's paying for law school, so maybe he has no choice.
Yeah.
And also, he was like, okay, well, then I get the trophy. So, I mean, I think it showed that he's true to his character. It's not like overnight he's now going to become some, Saint Asher.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. But I think race and class came in several places. I think that it came into play with the federal judge, just like you said, the senator. I think it came into play with the actual story of theoretically white wealthy people coming into a poor neighborhood where the people were presumed not to have power and not to have rights, so therefore the white power structure could push them out. That's one part. I think that it was extremely telling that the writers chose to use in this instance the adjective white when Annalise says to Sam, "You're white whore." She didn't simply say "you're whore," or she didn't simply say "you're young whore." The fact that she chose to use, and the writers chose to use, the adjective white, I think is telling. And I completely agree with you, because I think that it says in Annalise's mind in some level that you're assigning some type of value to that more so than me because I am black. And then again, in court, I think that's where she gets her energy from. She says people who of a different skin color, and obviously I think it's the first time that we see Annalise speaking as if it's her, and that's what you felt. You felt that when they had potentially displaced these people and pinned this murder on David Allen, that Annalise felt that she was David, that she felt like she was all of these individuals who had been displaced solely because they didn't have power and solely because of the color of their skin, that someone didn't want them in a particular neighborhood that they had previously been in. So
And
again, I think you're right. I think the race and the class issue was prevalent in this episode and will probably be a running theme.
and then also remember the side shot when she finally stopped giving the business to Senator. There was a side shot of her as she finally that her is it called the dis when she made her speech to is that a dis what's the word when she gave her final words.
I
Um,
know what you're saying. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. I know what you're talking about.
But she was giving her final words to Senator Truco when the judge finally told her to stop before I put you in jail. There was this side shot of Annalise, and you could see her breathing heavy, and then you see the judge in the very background. And so it was a great shot. It was very interesting, and it was almost like she felt powerless, like the black person who were in the neighborhood that was moving out, and there was a judge who had the power, and she was like breathing heavy as a symbolism for powerless power. Who's going to make the decision? I thought that was a great shot.
I think that's an excellent assessment, Bam. I think
Yeah.
that's an excellent assessment.
But I do have a bone to pick one on Elise.
Go ahead.
No. When she referenced to her husband Sam about being lied to and sleeping with the white whore. Um, Besides the fact, color doesn't have anything. We can forget about the color for just a second. So I have a problem with Annalise and I have a problem with Michaela because she's upset with Sam for sleeping with the white whore, having your penis in this girl's picture who's now dead, and she's like, because you lied to me. But you're sleeping with Nate.
Wait,
Michaela, you are upset with your fiance, and I said this last week, and I'm not gonna let it go. So just give me 30 seconds to go off. Michaela, there was a whole difference because, well, she didn't. We don't know if she murdered. Lying about an ex versus this could be a little bit different. But the reality is, and I forgot to mention this last week. Michaela said, if you ever lie to me again, not only will I divorce you, but I will take you for all your money. I will ruin every credibility that you ever have to want to become a political figure. Okay, so she's willing to do all this because she didn't tell him about an episode that happened years ago, but you have this big, 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 huge secret. It's one thing to keep secrets, but it's one thing to now go on record to say, if you ever lie to me again, I'm going to do this, 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 this. My problem with Annalise and with Michaela is sometimes you have people who go after people for something that they did, but never want to recognize that they're also lying and being misleading as well. So it just pisses me off that these two women have the nerve to come so hard at their boyfriends, their fiance and husbands, yet you're also doing dirt too.
do you think that's why they're doing it? Do you think that they're projecting? Do you think that somehow they are not okay with themselves, the fact that they're not being truthful, and that's why it resonates so strongly with them when someone else lies to them?
Yeah.
Okay, but also I'm actually not gonna counter you. I'm gonna let YouTube counter you. One of the YouTube comments we got was from that girl, and she said, "quote I don't think she could tell anyone about moving Sam's body because she isn't just outing herself. She's outing the other three as well." And I
I
think that resonates differently when there's a difference when you have a secret and it only affects you. So you're willing to, throw yourself on the sword or throw yourself on the fire, which is very different than if she does it, she's also implicating three other people where she kind of took an oath to. And so which is worse? Is it better than just to tell the truth and we all go to jail, or is it better to be loyal to the fact that they formed some kind of covenant inside this murder scene?
Okay, thank you that girl for leaving that message to us on YouTube. But I'm gonna say this. So because she gave her word to some people that are also in this mess, marriage is marriage. Marriage is marriage. So you're gonna be loyal to three other boneheads for their indiscretion so that you guys can all save your asses versus a man that you are willing to marry and take an oath to. Like your loyalty, it's you.
Okay, now I'm going to say
Yes,
something.
I'm sorry.
No, and I agree with you, but do you think, and again, I think that this show is very well written and they don't throw things in on purpose. So, again, Connor mentioned something about her gay fiance.
Yeah.
One. Number two, we also find out from the closing of the episode that, or not even the closing, but beforehand, that Liz argued, and we've kind of seen them kind of leaving little breadcrumbs about this. Either Liz had some kind of a sexual dalliance with Sam, and potentially that was the first time he cheated. And or, I mean, it has to be. There's no other reason that Annalise could potentially, in a state of despair, call her and ask her if she is currently with her husband, unless it had happened before.
Okay.
And, go ahead.
I get that. Just to wrap up the Annalise thing, my whole thing is if you're going to be so hard on these people, when you have the secrets that you have, you need to lighten up on being so hard on someone for lying to you. I'm just saying when two liars are together, you have to be easy on each other because you're both lying. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's.
But Bonnie, even from the episode when she told Frank, "Bitch, please," there's something creepy about Bonnie's character that.
I mean, I totally agree with you, and I don't know why I keep calling her Liz because her name is Bonnie. But I agree with you because I mean the scene with Bonnie and Laurel basically about Frank. I thought that was the first time that I was like, okay, you know, Bonnie really is about the team, and she's kind of about the fact that Frank, Bonnie, and Annalise and Sam presumably are family. But then to fast forward to the end of the episode and she's sleeping with Asher, I was like, I'm confused and a little disgusted, and I don't really know what her deal is.
It's kind of odd, but she's creepy. I don't know. There's something about her that's creepy. I don't get her. And that was now we've discussed about how we don't like the flashbacks back and forth, but every time each week when the flashbacks tend to grow more. So we've seen the flashbacks when they're in the car and how they were going to move the body, but this time I never even paid attention that Asher was not a part of the
murder.
The murder cover-up. He was walking across the street when they were getting ready to drive down Route 6 to do something with the body. And he's on the phone, which it was revealed that he's on the phone with Bonnie, and now he goes and sleep with her. I mean, this story it's becoming such a mess in such a great, entertaining way. I was like, oh my gosh.
I completely agree with you. And I mean, I think I'm going to take it one step further. You know, us finding out that not only did Frank plant the phone in the quarterback's car, but that, you know, Nate had asked someone to follow Frank, and they have it all on camera.
Yeah.
Like, all I kept thinking was, oh my goodness, is Sam going to be the undoing of Annalise? Because arguably, he now has become symbolic of her weak, vulnerable, I'm just going to call it her inner child.
Yeah.
And the minute she did that, the minute she asked Frank to do something and basically said, oh, you know, just between us, I knew it was going to end badly. And the minute that news story came up and the way in which she said to Sam, oh, I wanted to be the first to tell you, kind of like gloating and sticking it to him at the same time. But then the manner in which when he asked, well, I'm not mad, but why did you do it? And the way that she said, because I need you, and in each instance that she had to say out of her mouth that I need you, she started to break down more and more and more. And the way she said, I love you, and broke down like she couldn't believe that she could love this man who presumably had done egregious things to her that we still have yet to discover. I was like, oh crap, she is no longer being objective. Everything that she is teaching her students, she right there in this moment is making decisions based on emotion and not making decisions based on pragmatism, and it is going to be her undoing.
I mean, yeah, she totally, she wouldn't change the wallpaper. That moment when she was saying, I need you, and she broke down, I said to myself, she's crazy. She's crazy.
Go one step further for me.
When I say she's crazy, it's almost like she's bipolar. Her personal life has become such, has become such, she's in such turmoil that it's literally driving her crazy.
Okay, I can see that. And I'm going to say I agree with you. I wish I could think of a different word, but I definitely think that we are seeing Annalise hit her wall and she's starting to crumble. And her two worlds, I think that had been, in essence, separated. I feel like the broken Annalise on some levels she had theoretically left behind, right? And she had created this new powerful dynamic. And now arguably that old Annalise is starting to come back and the two almost are fighting, and that's kind of sometimes what we're seeing is we're seeing that switch. So she walked in the room powerful, like, oh, I was hoping to be the one to tell you. And then within minutes, we see her crumbling and willing to potentially give up everything for this man who arguably is dishonorable. No, I mean, I think that you know, you are correct in your assessment. Like I said, I kind of wish I could think of a different word other than going crazy, but I think that that's an accurate assessment.
Why do you think she needs him?
I think she needs him. I think I'm going to do basic and then complex. Basic is just like everyone else. I think that there is something about human beings that we need to be loved. We need to be loved also for organically who we are. And arguably, Sam knows the real her. So Sam knows the real her without the makeup, without the eyelashes, without the wig, and before she was this dynamic, super powerful attorney. I think that there's something to be said when someone knows you at your most truest, rawest form. And then also, too, I think on a complex level, I think we've kind of yet to see it. But I think part of it is the fact that I think he built her. And I don't know if we had talked about this on or off camera, but I think that in relationships, when someone, quote unquote, creates someone or molds someone, it creates this weird parent-child dynamic where the child always feels indebted to the parent because you literally created me. You bore me into this world, and no matter what you do to me, I will always love you. So I think that's kind of more the intellectual, psychological aspect of it. But what do you think, Dan?
I don't have an answer. I don't know why she needs him. And she's willing to risk her whole reason why she's a lawyer covering up his murder, which it alludes to that maybe she killed him because now the body's gone. So I don't get it. I don't understand why she needs him. But I mean, if you go back to what you said, was that if he leaves, then she has nothing. You know, Nate's married. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. That's actually a really good place to end. Let us know, why do you think that Annalise needs Sam, given everything that we know? So again, let us know on Google+, let us know on YouTube, let us know on Twitter. Why do you think Annalise needs her husband, number one? Number two, do we think she's going to sell out Frank? So let us know if we think that somewhere in the future, Frank is theoretically the person on the pictures planning the evidence. Will she give up Frank to save herself and or presumably to save Sam? So let
Okay.
us know on Google Plus, YouTube, and on Twitter. I think that's a good place for us to end. Bam, you had some insider information though, just switching gears to a little bit of news and gossip
Yeah.
about Viola Davis's contract. You want to share that with the viewers on kind of what we were talking about regarding her contract and how many episodes she's
Yeah.
going to do for murder?
Well, we're at the point in the fall season where shows are either picked up, they've been ordered, or canceled. And so obviously, Scandal and Grey's Anatomy has been picked up for the full season. Grey's is doing 24 episodes, Scandal's doing 22. But How to Get Away with Murder is still at 15 episodes because that's a part of Viola Davis's contract. So will they expand it to 7 more episodes so that it can be 22 episodes, like a full season, or will they only stop at 15 because she's a movie star, maybe she has other contracts? With 7 episodes, you're looking at a potentially maybe 2.5 months of production, which could fall into her schedule for her doing movies. So the question is, will they keep it at 15? Will they go to 22 episodes? Or is this a great bidding thing for her because if the show maybe wasn't successful, she can pull out of it. If the show is successful, now she can negotiate more money for 7 more episodes to go full. And then I also think, just on one other note, I think her courtroom performance today or on this week solidified her Golden Globe, her SAG, and her Emmy nomination. And I believe she's going to win. So by the time 15 episodes is over, the Golden Globes will already been over, and we'll be going into the SAG nominations. So if she wins the Golden Globe, will she now demand I'll do the other 7 episodes to go full if you guys give me more money? So it's interesting that they've only done 15 episodes in a nutshell.
I think that is excellent insider information, and I am curious to see what's going to happen. I'm definitely going to
Yeah.
keep talking to you, and hopefully you'll keep talking to us about that, because obviously we all want 22, 23, 24 full episodes with Viola. So thank you everyone for watching. Again, this has been The Rap Report, How to Get Away with Murder, Episode 6, Freakin' Whack-A-Mole. Where can they find you, Bam, to talk to you during the week about all things How to Get Away with Murder?
You can find me on all social media at Bam Erickson.
And you can find me at all social media at Sophia Stanley. And again, thank you everyone so much for watching. Tweet us, YouTube, leave a comment, rate, comment, subscribe. Thank you. Bye.